move around too much.
Sorry, I always imagine once. I was like, he chased Ariel down. Extreme. It's 7 o'clock. The meeting of the Willamina School Board is now called to order. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, I feel so rude when I do that because it makes such a loud noise. Do it. First item on our agenda this evening, Board of Education information. It looks like a resignation from Ginger Whitman.
I move to accept Ginger Whitman's resignation from Board Position 1.
Second. The motion to accept Ginger Whitman's resignation from board position number 1 has been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments for board discussion?
Was that early or just at the end of her term?
It is now,
Couple
as
months early.
effective now.
Oh, it's right now.
Yeah,
And it,
She didn't
and it's
wanna
early.
wait.
Yeah, it's early. Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I call for the vote. All of those in favor of accepting Ginger Whitman's resignation from board position number 1 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. Vote is unanimous. Next up on the agenda.
I just had a thing about the upcoming elections is, that anyone who's interested in being on the board needs to have their, name into the county by this Thursday, March 16th. So if you know of anyone that's talked about wanting to be on the school board, now's the time to give them a second call and see if they're really committed to doing that. You can be on the ballot with a $10 fee or 25 signatures. I believe it would
29 signatures.
yeah.
And the signatures have to be residents of the district. Otherwise, they'll be not counted.
Otherwise, we will have 2 positions that are on the board that are still open until someone puts in for those positions. So let's be doing some talking with people and trying to get that out there so we can try to get a full board.
Did you sign it, Dan?
That, yeah.
All right. Next on our, thank you, April.
Mhm.
Next on the agenda is our consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
The motion to approve the consent agenda as presented has been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments for board discussion? Hearing none, I call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. Vote is unanimous. Next on this evening's agenda is our superintendent's report.
All right, so in your board packet, I have my board report. Since writing this report, I actually went to the meeting on March 9th, and the Planning Commission did approve our permit for the middle school expansion as presented. There were some conditions for occupancy. One, that the water project, the booster pump water project, had to be completed. And 2, that we have a 12 parking spot that we plan to pave with the new expansion, but we have a little section of the road that will be unpaved from where the paved road stops kind of at the CTE building, and then it's gravel all through the student parking, and then the staff parking's paved again. We are actually having a company come out and do a traffic flow study. So they're coming up at arrival time, and then they're coming up at 2:30 and 3:30 time to look at our traffic flow and then make recommendations of any changes that they would deem necessary to improve safety. So we did mention that at the planning commission meeting, so they did a little bit of rewording to that to allow us the time frame to incorporate the recommendations of this company into our project, rather than paving a strip that maybe they come around and say, no, that's not where your lead road should be. So they have given us a little window, a little wiggle room to work. But the intention is to pave all of that area, but we just want, this campus was never designed to have this many people up here, and so traffic flow is a little bit of a nightmare, as is parking. We've done a lot to improve parking, but still the flow can be less than unstressful at times. Certainly at that 3:30 time is really, really bad. So that was nice that they could make that allowance and still pass and allow the permit to go through, so that we can start banging nails here ASAP as soon as weather clears up. The plan's done, the site's prepped, we just are ready to start collecting materials and get going. There was a little concern on my end. This water project got significantly delayed because of COVID and significantly more expensive. However, the city has secured all the funding as of now to get this project done, so that's great news. An original completion date was late 2022. Now the project is anywhere from late 2023 through 2025. It's broken into 2 phases, and we are in the first phase, which is good news. When our building gets complete and we're ready to occupy, and if for some reason that booster pump's not completely installed, or they're still, they said that we can work between the engineer, the fire chief, and the planning commission to talk about occupancy. We are still working on final budgets. I have made my first proposal for the 2023-24 budget. It was included in a previous package. We won't know the exact numbers for education in the governor's budget until probably the end of June. We will have to have a proposed budget for our budget committee in May. We are looking at increased enrollment. All year we've had about 40 more students than we had the previous year, which that translates to about $400,000. We have an estimated state school fund of $10,551,000 for next year. Local revenue at about $2,777,000. We also need to plan for a 4% COLA for all staff and a 3.15 step increase. So that will eat up quite a bit of that increase, and with the governor's budget reserving $9.9 billion for K-12 education, we feel like we can put together a very sound budget and still plan for future needs. As Dan might not know, but we have had a pretty poor history of passing bonds in this district. From the time we built this building in 1980, we went about 30 years before we passed the $2 million bond to build that 5-classroom building and the CTE building. So maintaining our facilities is something I take really seriously, as far as making sure that enough funds are reserved to repair roofs, repair HVAC systems, The road Oaken Hills Drive is ours privately, so we have to maintain that road. So we have reserve funds that we set aside every year to have kind of a 10-year cycle of maintaining those, and a small budget for improvements. But with 9.9 billion, I think that we can do that satisfactorily and deliver the services that we delivered this year as well. We have successfully submitted our integrated plan. It was a pretty heavy lift. I got that done last week. It's due March 31st. It integrates the 6 plans. The 2 big ticket items are our student investment account, which comes in about $700,000+, and our high school success fund, that's about $270,000. So altogether, these 6 plans account for about $1 million. And one of the things that's important is that we have community input in how we spend that money. So we've done the work, we've put all the pieces in place. The state has a series of what they call smart sheets, and basically they're just downloaded, a drop-down box that you select to fill in all the pieces, and then short narratives. There's about 13 narratives with a maximum of 250 to 500 words per section, but it consisted of about 5 smart sheets, a budget, and then what the group worked on tonight was, and I have a copy for all of you, was putting in our long-range growth targets for the key indicators. Key indicators being 9th grade on track, 3rd grade reading, graduating on time, and attendance. So that's a collection of our assessment and key indicators over the last year, broken down by ethnic groups, broken down by subgroups, economic status. Good reading. We'll put you to sleep tonight, but if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me. If you want explanation on anything, but it's a great snapshot of how the district's trend has been over the last 5 years. And we do have a school calendar in the packet, and we will get to that point of adoption, but I am happy to say that we do have one for proposal for adoption. And that will come in, I think, at the end of it's on the agenda. That's it for me. Any questions?
No, Carrie, thank you. Righty. Next up, our principal report. Sarah.
This past month, I had the opportunity to go to, it's called Creating Trauma-Sensitive Schools. The Willamette School Improvement Fund had money left over from COVID, and so they've been sponsoring districts to go to several different national conferences this year. So I had the opportunity to go to this one, which was in Houston. It was an incredible experience. Lots of national keynotes talking about trauma sensitivity in schools. It's always nice to get out of Oregon and see what else is going on in schools, the problems that we're facing are nationwide. Get new, fresh ideas, see what's going on, and figure out how we can compare. So it was wonderful. In-service for next year is done. I was really inspired, and it was an excellent opportunity. SBAC preparation. We are getting ready and gearing up for state assessments. Teachers in grades 3 through 5 receive training in administering the SBAC, as well as best practices to prepare their students, practice tests. We took a look at all the data, a little bit more in depth and detailed than what Carrie just handed you based on elementary school. Really looking to see what gaps we can fill in with our kids and really get them ready for this round. We're also going school-wide with our SBAC, really honoring those who are testing in the upper grades and trying to get kids in the lower grades really excited to take the test when they're in 3rd through 5th grade. So we've buddy classed up. The K-1-2 classes each have a 3rd through 5th class. They're going to be coming in each morning of the SBAC and delivering little notes of cheer and encouraging. And so we're trying to really boost up the excitement for it. We did have family conferences on February 27th. Because of the weather, we opted just to go virtual. Some teachers decided to host open houses in their classrooms that week so that in addition to the conference, parents and families could come up and see the classroom and talk in person with the teacher. And then we had Fabulous Fridays in February just to bring a little excitement to the dreary weather we were having. We celebrated the love of comfort by wearing sweats, the love of school by wearing bulldog colors, the love of football, celebrating for the Super Bowl, and then the love of reading where everyone dressed up as their favorite book character. So it was really fun. Got teachers and students excited for Fridays as if they weren't already. But Fridays are a big deal for us, so we really celebrate. Last week we had Classified Appreciation Week where we honored our classified staff. We chose to do a local theme, so all of the gifts that we presented to the classified staff members were made by parents that we purchased. We had a catered meal that was done by a parent who runs a food truck. Everything was local and we really celebrated being here in Willamina. Upcoming events, we have our TAP site visit coming up this Thursday. So representatives from ODE are going to come in, they're going to watch literacy blocks and do a lot of empathy interviews with our students and our staff members and learn a little bit more about the TAP program. Book fair and school carnival are coming up, and then spring break. We are up 3 kids from last month. Oh, and then there's some really cute pictures for you. This is from our last Friday for the love of reading. So that is all for me. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jamie's not here. The middle and high school report that was mailed out to all of us because it wasn't included in the packet, but unfortunately Jamie's not here tonight. Next up would be Justine with the tribal report.
Okay, I have a lot because I wasn't here last month, I was sick. Some things that went on kind of early this month. March 3rd, we had the Wellness Warrior Day, so there was a good handful of students that weren't at school that day. But that was a super good event. I think all the kids that went got a lot out of it. And then after that was our round dance, and that was very well attended, being the first one since COVID. Our education team recently met with April Campbell to talk about tribal education priorities and kind of what were our goals moving forward in the next few years with education. Some of the bigger topics that we talked about were mental health, language and culturally responsive teaching in classrooms, curriculum development and continued offering professional development, and then for us as tribal educators, opportunities for collaboration and things that we're seeing in districts that we're working with, and kind of having the ability to collaborate and take ideas from each other moving forward. We do have a TAP site visit coming, that's Thursday. I'm gonna be representing the tribe, partnering with that. And then some of the stuff we have coming up, we're hosting our first ever admin collaboration day. So we've invited admins from any school that we have a MOU with. We invited all of the admins to come out for the day, do a tour, kind of get some tribal history, and then give them the afternoon to collaborate and talk about ways that they've collaborated with the tribe, and then ways that they could collaborate together and then collaborate with us moving forward, and how to build stronger relationships. So this is the first time we're hosting that. We're pretty excited about it, and we've gotten pretty good responses from all of the admins that we sent invites out to.
What day is that?
April 20th. The Grand Route Education Summit has been set for the 25th of August, which is a Friday. I think it's a Friday of your guys' in-service day. And we have broken that up. Last year was the first year that we did it at the casino. and we are doing it at the casino again. And then Cheyenne has created tracks for teachers to choose from. So the tracks are a like kindergarten through 5th grade focus, a middle high school focus, a cultural education focus, and then like an admin collaboration focus. And so that way those that attend can kind of decide kind of what track they want to go on, or if they want to kind of veer off based on what they're looking for. And we've had at least 2/3 of our presenters all confirmed and everything. So that's exciting and coming along. I think I said this last time, but Cheyenne's finished developing the curriculum K through 12. There's now over 100 lessons available for teachers online that they can access, and they can reach out to Cheyenne for more support in doing any of those lessons. Youth Education has a book event that they're doing, or that we are doing, on Thursday, and it's open to the community, and all youth that attend are going to go home with a book, unless we get an outrageous amount of attendance. Then we're going to have to figure something out. Thursday. It'll be from 5 to 6:30 in the Youth Education building. And then we'll have like some spring events and dinner and catering and all that. But drop-in coaching is still happening after school. So for the students that come out to the tribe for what would be like a K-5 after school program, elementary can get support from 3:30 to 4:30, and we've reached out to teachers and asked teachers for names of students that would benefit from that, so that we can both be sure and target them to pull them to get that support. For middle and high school, it's from 4:30 to 5:30, and we do this in Willamina in Adam Langley's classroom on Wednesdays. So if we have students that teachers have reached out and said they need that support, but they can't get out to Grand Rond, we try to get them to go to the Willamina drop-in and reach them there. The tribe is actually hosting, our education program is hosting our first spring education carnival, and so we're doing that on April 6th. It's open to anybody, 4:30 to 7, I believe. There'll be dinner available and a whole bunch of activities that have been put together. That's open community-wide. And then I think the last thing is we have the New York internship is now available and open. That's open to any sophomore, junior, senior Oregon resident students. There's requirements that are listed, and we can send out the information so that that can be distributed. But Adam Langley has all of that, and he's pushing that in his classroom. But it's open to tribal students, so if you guys know of anybody in classes that would be good candidates for that, to let them know. I think that's all that I have. Oh, we are planning a college visit at the end of the school year, but more information about that will come at the end of the year. Any questions?
Fantastic, Justine, thank you. And next up is Ryan with her student report.
I got quite a bit tonight. Starting off with leadership, we were able to collect donations. So we had a big food drive this last month, February 14th through the 28th. And we just dropped it up this morning. It was a little over 500 pounds. We delivered it to the Grand Shermina Food Bank. We're currently working on the carnival. I have flyers for you guys once I'm done. It'll be Wednesday, March 22nd from 5 to 8 p.m. We may have a blood drive, or we have a blood drive scheduled for Wednesday, May 17th. This last one just had to be moved. It was supposed to be today, actually. From athletics wrestling, we won our district, and we ended up 5th at state. Me and one of our wrestlers, 120-pounder, Adonai, got 2nd, and then Austin Johnson and Kaiser Savage got 3rd. Also, Landon Rizou wrestled at middle school state, and he ended up 3rd. Baseball's first game tomorrow, and we are really enjoying the batting cages, so thank you guys for that. Softball's first game tomorrow is at Nia Connie. This is from Heather Hughes. Buff Puff boys volleyball night saw 2 teams hash it out for a winner-takes-all match. Lots of students' involvement with girls coaching them. Track and field hosted a javelin clinic on a new track this weekend. 13 athletes from 5 different schools came to learn from Coach Scott Halley. Alumni Callie Schoenbacher will be hosting a Learn by Doing Jump clinic this Tuesday down at the track. She currently competes for a college of the Redwoods in Eureka, California. This is from Nice for FFA. Our FFA chapter earned 4th in Poly Pro, 3rd in conduct of chapter meeting. Allison LaPointe won her district diversified ag production proficiency and qualified for state. Leanna won her district diversity livestock production proficiency and qualified for state. Allison and Leanna are both receiving their state FFA degree, the highest honor of the state. Gracie Dunn was elected district vice president for 2022-2023. Our farm business management team, Joe Books, Allison LaPointe, Leanna LaPointe, Lily Crow, and Haley Bolson, will be competing at state this weekend in Redmond. McKinley Floyd and Gracie Dunn were selected as delegates for the state. 13 of us are going to state convention this weekend in Redmond, and maybe a music competition on February 22nd. We don't know quite yet. That's all I got.
Where you guys playing at?
This time. And then hopefully Friday here against Sheridan and Amity. Hopefully.
Showing decent weather, so.
Thanks, Ryan. Next on the agenda is our audience time. Is there anything from the audience that they feel needs to come before the board that is not currently on our agenda? Okay. Next on our agenda, reports and discussion policy DLCR staff reimbursement.
Yeah, we just put this policy in here. It has not been reviewed or revised for a very long time. And it's mostly to address the per diem reimbursement rates for staff when they travel outside of the district. The rates we had in there just weren't really applicable to today's prices, so we wanted to revisit the policy to reflect a more appropriate per diem. Moving breakfast from $10 to $15, lunch from $15 to $20, and dinner from $20 to $30.
And I think too, I spoke with Lisa and she wanted to add so the gratuity up to 18 to 20% because that's mostly what is allowed now. I don't think anyone gives up 50%. It's not, I mean, most things are automatic at 20%, so
you're
we could
picking-
add that, yeah.
Starts at 18 almost.
I feel bad because I took 15% at Dutch. So, is this something that we need to move and vote
No,
upon?
it has to be presented in the meeting
Okay.
first, and then I'll have it on the consent agenda next meeting. And unless there's any questions or you want to see anything else changed, then you can let me know, email me or whatever, then it'll be on the consent agenda to approve next month.
So basically, it looks like the only thing that's really changed are the
Just the
is the
prices,
food.
yeah.
Mileage reimbursement has not, or at least
We
the
go
amount
with the
of mileage.
IRS rate every
Okay.
year. Yeah, we kind of have to do that.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, co-op agreement between Sheridan, Delphian School, and Willamina for girls soccer.
Well, this is a proposal that three athletic directors we've worked on for the last couple of months and started talking about. We each have a number of kids who are interested in this, but none of us have enough to really field a full team. And how this works is you have to combine your enrollments, but since Delphian's kids live in our district, they actually count as our kids. We will not have to count their enrollments. Kind of the reverse of we do a co-op with them for boys soccer up there, but we have to do that as a co-op and count both enrollments. So it's a little bit of just a change on how that works. We had a kind of a brief sign up just to kind of see what the interest is. We had 9 girls. Sheridan is in the same area. Delphian will have a number of, but they will be part of our kids. So we will actually have more than 9 if all 9 of ours decide they want to do this. I'm presenting this because each school board has to approve it before we can follow through with the paperwork to the OSAA. And you have to approve it to say that we support this. Anything will be played practice-wise, game-wise at Sheridan. They will be the actual host school of the co-op. The only thing we may be responsible for, and this isn't anything we've even talked about, I haven't talked to Carrie yet, we may have to come up with some monies to help pay a little bit for the coach. But that's not something we've even crossed yet. We're kind of just hoping we can get it going and then work from there. And so that's really what it is in a nutshell, that we're just trying to provide some other opportunities for some kids. I believe this next year we only have one boy go to Delphian, but I think this next year we have some more that are now interested. The one boy who did go up, he was first team All-League and helped them to the quarterfinals of the state playoffs. And I had a great year, and it was really worth, even though it was one kid of us having it. So he had some success in that. So that's kind of what it is, and it has something that you decide on whether that we can move forward with that. And Carrie has the paperwork. It's just she has to mark down a date on when the board has approved for it.
It's all electronic on OSA's website. I just go in and enter the dates that the board took action.
When does the season start?
It's a fall season. It's the same as volleyball and football. Some of the things we have to work out. We got to figure out how we do the transportation. How is that covered liability-wise? Getting kids to Sheridan. I'm struggling on having. Some of them will not even have a driver's license, so we're gonna have to figure that out. There's some things that we're gonna have to.
Fortunately, we do have a bus that goes every day to like the library that we could get. I'm sure we could work out something during that season that we just add another drop-off spot in Sheridan.
And then have, make sure parents are picking up, and that's
Yeah.
why I don't want kids driving kids. That's just another one of those things.
Well, I mean, that's something we require parents, whether it's here, they pick their kids up from sports, but they don't have to get themselves here because they're already here. So it would be nice if we can at least help support getting them, but not making that a barrier to not being able to participate.
Any questions?
What would be would it be a 2A?
Well, it's 1A, 2A, 3A girls are all combined. So that's how we can get away with the enrollment part. Since we are still a 2A and Delphian's enrollment doesn't count. If we had to count Delphians, we wouldn't be able to do it unless we'd be a 4A school then. So, and we're petitioning for 2 years to start with. Same as the boys with Delphian, it's 2 years, so this next year is the last year, unless we both agree. But I will tell you this much, there's probably a really good chance after this next school year that we're gonna get moved back to 3A. I would say that's a real good chance. Our enrollment has, in the first year in 2A jumped. And so it will change some of this again. So, but if we can get a year into it and we get a lot of some kids that really want to do it, we may have to look at having our own. But the problem we have is our football field. The way the track is designed, it's an older style of track, so it's more narrow. So the out of bounds would be on the track. So it's next to impossible to have home meets on or games on our field. Something we've got to think of down the road what we can do. But to get it started and get some kids some opportunities, that's kind of the plan right now.
In order to be further on down the road, you have to get it started now.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
And there's no way of changing that track. It's a done deal and we're not moving it now.
Don't touch that track.
I know. Put my body down on that.
I move to approve a co-op agreement between Sheridan, Delphi, and Willamina for a girls soccer program.
Second.
The motion to approve a co-op agreement between Sheridan, Delphian School, and Willamina for a girls soccer program has been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments for board discussion? Hearing none, I call for the vote. All those in favor of approving a co-op agreement between Sheridan, Delphian School, and Willamina for girls soccer program signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. The vote is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next under decision items are renewal and non-renewal of licensed personnel.
And each one of those need to be read individually.
Gotcha.
do that. This is like we did. All right, I move for the renewal of 2-year contracts for all district licensed contract personnel for the 2023 to 2025 school years as recommended by the superintendent and presented this date.
Second.
The motion for the renewal of the 2-year contracts for all district licensed contract personnel for 2023-2025 school years as recommended by the superintendent and presented this date has been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments for board discussion? Hearing none, I call for the vote. All those in favor of the renewal of 2-year contracts for all district licensed contract personnel for the 2023-2025 school years as recommended by the superintendent and presented this date signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. Vote is unanimous.
I move for the renewal of the 3rd-year probationary licensed staff to be considered contract for 2023-2024 school year as recommended by the superintendent and presented this date.
Second.
The motion for the renewal of the 3rd-year probationary licensed staff to be considered contract for the 2023-2024 school year as recommended by the superintendent and presented this date has been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments for board discussion? Hearing none, I call for the vote. All of those in favor of the renewal of the 3rd-year probationary licensed staff to be considered contract for the 2023-2024 school year as recommended by the superintendent and presented this date signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. Vote is unanimous.
Move for the renewal of the 2nd-year probationary licensed staff to be considered 3rd-year probationary for the 2023-2024 school year as recommended by the superintendent and presented this date.
Second.
The motion for the renewal of the 2nd-year probationary licensed staff to be considered 3rd-year probationary for the 2023-2024 school year as recommended by the superintendent and presented this date has been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments for board discussion? Hearing none, I call for the vote. All those in favor of the renewal of the 2nd-year probationary licensed staff to be considered 3rd-year probationary for the 2023-2024 school year as recommended by the superintendent and presented this date signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. Vote is unanimous.
I move for the renewal of the 1st-year probationary licensed staff to be considered 2nd-year probationary for 2023-2024 school year as recommended by the superintendent and presented this date.
Second.
The motion for the renewal of the 1st-year probationary licensed staff to be considered 2nd-year probationary for the 2023-2024 school year as recommended by the superintendent and presented this date has been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments for board discussion? Hearing none, I call for the vote. All those in favor of the renewal of the 1st-year probationary licensed staff to be considered 2nd-year probationary for the 2023-2024 school year as recommended by the superintendent and presented this date signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. Vote is unanimous.
I move for the non-renewal of temporary contracts for licensed staff for 2023-2024 school year as recommended by the superintendent and presented this date.
Second.
The motion for the non-renewal of temporary contracts for licensed staff for the 2023-2024 school year as recommended by the superintendent and presented this date has been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments for board discussion? Hearing none, I call for the vote. All those in favor of the non-renewal of temporary contracts for licensed staff for the 2023-2024 school year as recommended by the superintendent and presented this date signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. The vote is unanimous.
I move for the renewal of contracts for administrative license personnel for the 2022-2025 school years as recommended by the superintendent and presented this date for Sarah Norwood, Brent Morrell, and Jamie Fluke.
Second.
The motion for the renewal of contracts for administrative licensed personnel for the 2022-2025 school years as recommended by the superintendent and presented this date for Sarah Norwood, Brett Morrell, and Jamie Fluke has been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments for board discussion? Hearing none, I call for the vote. All those in favor of the renewal of contracts for administrative licensed personnel for the 2022-2025 school years as recommended by the superintendent and presented this date for Sarah Norwood, Brent Morrell, and Jamie Fluke signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. Vote is unanimous.
I move for the renewal of probationary contract for administrative licensed personnel to be.
We don't really have to do that one because there's
Oh,
someone there.
okay. I don't see any names.
That's okay.
It's on there.
If you want someone.
Yeah, I was on a roll.
Come on, we're on a roll. I know. If you want to, we can just. For more practice, if you want.
More practice. Okay, next up is the budget calendar for 2023-2024.
I move to adopt the proposed 2023-2024 budget calendar as presented.
Second.
The motion to adopt the proposed 2023-2024 budget calendar as presented has been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments for board discussion?
I just wanted to remind board members that we do need all of you there at these meetings, so just pay attention to those dates on that calendar. And some of them are as needed, so just add that to the other.
Like the 11th and the 18th and.
Well, yeah, those are published meetings, but the actual first meeting will be 4/24.
Wow, that's like every Monday in May.
What we hope to pass this year. Or-
What's the budget hearing?
The budget hearing is usually the end of June.
God,
Yeah,
that's
where we
right.
do the budget.
I already know I won't be here for that
Okay.
date.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Well, yeah, we'll just, hopefully we're, have a bigger board by then, but we'll just keep track of the absences, yeah.
Oh, gosh, that's right, I remember that last year.
Mhm. Okay, so you can do that.
Okay, that was the questions or comments. The motion to adopt the proposed 2023-2024 budget calendar as presented has been moved and seconded. Wait, already did that part. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. The motion has been passed.
I move to adopt the proposed 2023-2024 school calendar as presented.
Second.
The motion to adopt the proposed 2023-2024 school calendar as presented has been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments for board discussion? Hearing none, I call for the vote. All those in favor of adopting the proposed 2023-2024 school calendar as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. Vote is unanimous. And that would be it. Future agenda items, superintendent evaluation, is that on the next one?
Yeah, we'll start looking at that at the next board meeting. I'll have the document available for you guys to kind of go through, and then we just have to have that done before June 30th. So we try to get it done early. So if we can get it to you guys, and then I'll have a due date and get it back, and maybe we'll have an executive session in May to go over the findings with Carrie.
Well, there being nothing further on the agenda to discuss, the meeting of the Willamina School Board is now adjourned.
So we have to go to